For over 50 years, people have come to see the Sharks play. Talent, skill, speed, intelligence, elite-level athleticism. That's not these guys. Biased, one-eyed, opinionated. More often wrong than right. They make up for their complete lack of talent with pure dribble, gibberish, and enthusiasm. This is the E.T. Stand Podcast.
Welcome to the E.T. Stand, the Cronulla Sharks fans podcast that lets its talking do the football. And on this episode, we are joined by Sharks royalty, former Sharks halfback, Rothmans Medal winner, Jersey flag player, recruitment manager, and of course CEO, and one of my all-time favourites, arguably one of the guys that got me into supporting the Sharks, a local junior who bleeds black, white, and blue like so many of us, Barry Russell. Welcome to the ET Stand podcast. And you're injured again.
Yes, Dave. Well, thanks for having me, mate. And it's a pleasure. Yes, I just continually have shoulder injuries. And they're, I suppose, a hangover of my Sharks playing days, mate. I had my fair share, that's for sure.
So the shoulder that you've got injured here that we can see, having just rewatched the 1988 playoff matches and watching you hobble around, geez, it was a valiant effort to play. Is it the same shoulder? Because you had both shoulders reconstructed, didn't you?
Yeah, I've had both reconstructed, and I've torn ACL ligaments and all, not ACL, what are they called, the collarbone ligament and stuff. Yeah, so I've got my fair share of arthritis and problems in them, but what old footy player hasn't, mate?
It's a tough game, rugby league, isn't it? Especially tough in that era. So we'll get into that. So on this episode, we're going to talk to Baz about his entire playing career and post-administrative career with the Cronulla Sharks as well. So he's been very generous to give up his time for us. And he's also a friend of my father's, having trained down there at the Cronulla Youth Weight Training Gym at Cronulla as well. So he's an absolute Shire legend. Baz, let's just start from the beginning.
Let's roll, mate.
Let's roll, buddy. So the Sharks, how did you look? You had a 59% win record as a player for the Sharks, and so we've actually done episodes on our podcast where we've looked at all-time players, and of legend-type players, there's only really Peachy and Matt Rogers who sit above you for players that you would consider iconic players. It's a fair record, mate. How did you get into the Sharks, and how did they find you, and what was your journey to start playing for the Cronulla Sharks?
Well, mate, my first, obviously I was a local junior. I started playing under 6 with the Taren Point Titans, and I would go down to Shark Park in the days with that old wooden stand, and I'd be on the hill and, jumping in ball rumbles while my dad was having a couple of beers, watching the footy, and then jumping onto the field and playing with all the kids after the match, till dark. So it, I suppose I always wanted to play for the Sharks, and when I was 14, I got selected in the Harold Matthews Cup, and from that day onwards, all I wanted to do was play for Cronulla and play on that big Shark Park field. So it was always. I was always driven. I was only a little tacker, but I could run fast. So the journey started from there. I played in every junior rep team. So the Matthews Cup, the SG Ball, the Jersey Flag, and got graded when I was 17. So, and then the journey began. Best time of my life.
It was a fair crop of players that you also came through with. At that time, Andrew Eddinghausen, obviously, after which this podcast is named, given that the group of guys who do this podcast all sit in the stand. But Jonathan Docking or Stuart Raven, was it? And there were a few other players floating around.
Yeah, Mick Porter, Johnny O'Connor. There was quite a few of us that came through at that time out of those junior rep teams. It was a real breeding ground for the club. And a lot of us, played juniors and came through, and that really became our superpower, our strength, if you like,
Well, certainly the junior development of any of the clubs, you see that through National Rugby League history and New South Wales Rugby League prior to that. The junior development, absolutely critical. Who did you look up to as a Sharks legend in the 70s? Who were your favourites?
Oh, Well, I used to love Barry Andrews, the panda.
He's good.
Yep. He's big, goal kicks from halfway, and I'd be behind the post trying to catch him, and just jumping in with everybody, trying to catch those footies. But he was a favourite of mine, definitely, probably my most favourite, Panda. I still see him around, God bless him, still around, yeah.
And of course, you didn't get to play with Steve because he had retired by the time you came into the team, hadn't he?
Well, I actually sat on the bench. I was on the bench when he went in Canterbury when Bugden broke his jaw that day. I was sitting on the bench for the Sharks that day, and that I never got to play with him. That was sort of
as close as you got.
As close as I got, but truly a special player, and a lovely man. That's for sure.
Definitely, indeed. And recognised as a Sharks Hall of Fame entry just this past couple of months ago. So, mate, you debuted in a Panasonic Cup midweek match against New South Wales Country First for the Sharks. It's technically your first grade debut, but your New South Wales Rugby League debut. Do you remember who it was against?
Oh, mate, I know, too long ago. I mean, those midweek cup games, they used to be fantastic. I used to love that.
Yeah, it was New South Wales Country First, and then your first grade debut for the Sharks was against North Sydney, and you got a try.
Yeah, I did. That would have been over at North Sydney O, wouldn't it? Over there?
Yeah, it was. It was.
Yeah.
It was. So, and then you're obviously breaking into the team, and now you had an injury. You didn't play much in 1986.
Yeah, I had shoulder reconstruction, and that put me out of action. So I pretty well followed up early in my career, one shoulder reconstruction after the next, So I was only 74 kilos back then, So I was able to hide in the second line, but as least tackling as possible for me.
Well, yeah, so the defensive structures of rugby league is certainly different to that now. So for those that may not have watched much 1980s rugby league, the second line of defence, explain that concept to me and the audience.
Well, back then, you'd stay up for a couple, and then you'd just basically form a second line, and you'd just patrol along the back there. If anyone made a half break, you'd jump on, So that was, obviously it's a lot more structured now. The halfback stands in the line. They're a lot bigger, and they have to take on a lot more defence, I don't know how I go. I get used as a speed hump these days, that's for sure.
Yeah, how would you? The role of the halfback certainly is different now to what it was back then. How would you have fared in today's game? Would you have been a halfback?
Oh, look, a totally different era now. I relied on my speed back then to get myself out of trouble and around the park. But the game's a lot more structured now. But back then it was, it was more really eyes up footy and ad lib footy. But it's a lot more structured, and as I said, the halfbacks are a lot bigger. They're like a bloody another forward, just about.
Now you're blooded into the first grade team by Jack Gibson.
Yeah, I was. Yeah.
What was he like as a coach? His time with the other teams often gets heralded, but his Sharks time doesn't get talked about that much. What was he like?
Yeah. He was great. He was a man of few words, but they were effective. He had a lot of respect from the boys, and it's just a shame we didn't have better results over that time. It's just the way it was. But he was, he was a good man, and really enjoyed playing under Jack.
Because he was there in the 87 season. I think you can start to see the signs of a team coming together. We started well. We were second on the ladder after 12 rounds, and then we had a bunch of losses: Illawarra, Canberra, North Sydney, and St George. It looks like you were in and out of the team. But it looks like we were building towards, we started to see E.T. and Sparkles McGaw starting to be picked in teams, and Gavin Miller was a star of the game. There were some players in that team.
Yeah, it was a good side in 87, and I think it was definitely building for something, and it featured a lot of, when you look at 88, we had a lot of local juniors in the side, and Shark Park was humming back then, so you look back. I mean, you can't have regrets, but you just, a bit more luck and a few less injuries, and who knows what would have happened,
Well, certainly the injuries. Well, 1988, what a season it was for you individually. You missed the first, five games.
Yeah.
And then somehow, Jag a Rothmans Medal that you didn't even expect to win yourself. You wore your white tuxedo, and how did you get the white tuxedo?
I got stitched up, I reckon, by the lady in the hire place, and she said, I'm going to put you in this suit with a white coat and a blue cummerbund, and off I went, and I seemed to be the only one with a white jacket on that night.
Do they tell you in advance that you're going to win, or do you literally find out that you're going to win?
Had no idea. No idea, none at all. Had a few beers at the club. We got into limos. We went in there, and I actually that night I'd organised with Rugby League Week. They wanted to do a photo shoot in an ice cream parlour. They did a feature.
So they didn't think you were winning either.
No. So off I went after the first count. I wasn't on the chart, and off I went and met them down in an ice cream parlour on Pitt Street. And I'm doing this photo shoot. The second count came out, and I'd popped up, and then the next count came up, and I was up in the top three, and everyone was peeking. They didn't know where I was, right? And then I rock up, and everyone was looking for me. So I sat down. I went, oh wow, okay. So I had no idea. Didn't know how it was going to pan out. Totally unexpected, and I picked Gav that night. Because I didn't play.
Gav was second.
Yeah, Gav was second. Yeah, and
Gav
I didn't play the last.
For the Sharks, then, if we have 1 and 2. So how did the Rothmans Medal points get decided? It was referee voted.
Yeah, back then it was the referee. So referees voted it, and it was a huge honour. For me myself, I didn't expect it, and great night, let me tell you.
Well, beating our players, Sterling, Lamb, Wayne Pearce, Paul Langmack, Ellery Hanley, Gavin Miller. It's a fair compliment of players to have had a season better than them. It's a terrific achievement. And then the story of the medal and the pin.
Yeah. So I got the medal, obviously, totally couldn't believe it. And they handed me a tie pin, and Donna Burke was the CEO back then. And as they handed me a tie pin, they said, whatever you do is give this to your CEO. It's worth a lot of money. And I thought they were talking about the tie pin, not the medal. So I gave her the tie pin, and I just went out with the boys up the cross, and the medal was getting handed round the bourbon and beef and swung around on the dance floor, and someone had a bite of it, and I ended up getting it back, and then I find out the next day it was actually the medal was worth all the money, not the tie pin.
So you've still got them. You obviously still got the medal. Yeah.
It's I've got it in my 88 jersey in a frame at home. So it's still
got it.
Very proud of that. But it. I suppose it was a result of the year we had, and obviously magnificent team and all the players, and I couldn't have done it without Gav either. So it was huge honour.
Well, certainly some team.
Yeah.
Now, the 1988 season, you're obviously injured for the first couple of matches, and we lost 3 of our first 5, and then it wasn't really until the end of the season we put an almighty streak together. It's a sort of form that I would say we're in a streak here. Surely we can't lose this premiership from here, but we weren't really first on the minor premiers ladder until round 20. It was some run together at the end, wasn't it? How did that all come together? What are the key moments during the season where you thought, this has just suddenly clicked here for us?
I just think we had this unbelievable belief, and it sort of had this feeling that it didn't matter where we sat in a game, we just had this expectation that we were going to win, right? And we came from behind in games, and we just we got on a roll. We did have a great team. There's some amazing players, and a lot of local juniors, and we're a pretty tight group, and it just resulted in win after win after win, so it was amazing.
Mm. So you played the second last match of the season. You started as halfback, and then you got injured. Did you get injured against the Illawarra Steelers? Was that the game you got injured, or was it after that?
Yeah, no, I got injured, and I dived over and scored a try in the summertime Bar Hill, and they landed on my shoulder, and it sprung my AC joint, and pretty badly, and so that was basically I missed the last round. And it was a race to get fit for the semis, you know. So, and it's just something wasn't going to get better any quick, you know. So,
so we beat so you get injured against Illawarra, which was a 22-14 points victory in Wollongong, and then we have a 2-point victory over St George in the last round to secure the minor premiership. 16-14, and then you don't play the match against the Canterbury Bulldogs in the major semi-final, which was at that time a record attendance at the new Sydney Football Stadium.
Yeah.
That match, having gone back, and I was actually at that match. It was the first match that I can remember going to. My mother took me to that one. Even that match, the Sharks were on top early in that match, Barry. Do you remember watching it? Do you remember being interviewed at halftime by the commentary? And how much do you remember that match?
Oh, look, it was. They were a very physical team, Canterbury. Like they had a real tough pack, and they absolutely bashed us. They belted us, you know. And we actually, I remember, we took a lot of, we carried a lot of injuries out of that match, and a week off would have been amazing. But I think that ended up taking its toll the following week. Just the amount of injuries that the team carried. You know, we had to get needled up. A lot of the players to actually play, and ultimately, you know, that affected the result, you know.
So you're interviewed at, I was going to clip the interview of you at halftime, and I might do and post that to the Instagram later. But certainly at the time you called it, and you said, well, it's a bit of ill discipline from the coaches. So we can just not have those errors. And it's funny how sometimes the simplicity of rugby league, and you go back and watch a match from 1988, and some of those things still run true. And I felt that the Sharks team at that time, they were talented, they were a bit busted, and just a little bit immature with playing in a big match, whereas you're playing against, you know, a very experienced Canterbury Bulldogs team with Steve Folks coming off the bench. So they were a terrific team. Now there's another one. There's a it's now there's another moment in that match, Barry, that so the Sharkies we took the two early. So one of the big discussion points on our podcast is taking the penalty goals and the 2 points. So the Sharks took.
That was against the Tigers. You're talking about?
Well, there's the Tigers ones as well, but in the Bulldogs match we also did it. So we took the two early, and then we took the two again when we were 10-4 down to go 10-4. Yeah. And so sometimes you look at it. What's your take on what's, you know, you're a champion halfback for the Sharks, taking the 2 points. When do you do it? When do you not?
Yeah, look, it's always a tough call. I mean, you know, they're obviously. I'm a big fan of keeping the pressure on and keeping your field position and just keep the team wedged down into their end goal and trying to score a try, you know. But there's obviously times when the 2 points is quite valuable, you know, and you don't always get it right. But as I said, I'm a big fan of actually, you know, taking the tap and just keeping the field position. And field position these days is everything, as you know. You know, you can pick up 2 points, all of a sudden they kick off to you. You make an error on the third tackle, and they're attacking your line, and you know it's a judgment call these days made by the coach, and the trainers yell out to the players, and away you go. You know, so
not just Barry Russell just thinking, I'm going to score a try here. I'll just take it.
Go, you know.
Yeah, exactly. Now, your replacement Ron Quinn, he left the game with a fractured cheekbone.
Yeah.
So did that then put more pressure on you to then be available the next week, or were they trying to get you ready for the Balmain match regardless?
We were trying to get ready regardless, but unfortunately the injury, the way, you know, you tear your ligament and springs your AC joint, you know, it's just, you can't do any more damage. It's just the pain, right? So it just was you know, I remember Dr. Malouf whacking a heap of local anaesthetic around, you know, my shoulder.
Yeah.
And it when I would pass the ball, it was like a knife getting driven into the shoulder. So, you know, I stayed out there as long as I could, you know, and they knew it. They had, you know, they had Gary Freeman as halfback, Ellery Henley.
They had Ellery Hanley. They had
they kept trying to
Gary Jack, Wayne Pearce, Paul Sirenen,
they had a cracking team.
Benny Elias. It was a pretty good team.
Bloody good team, yeah. So
I tell you, it was a great game though. That in terms of a war of attrition semi-final of late 1980s rugby league, it was certainly one. And the Sharkies go ahead 2-0, and then you know, Elias was having a bit of a shocker with his kicking game, and you know, it was also funny. Go back the scrums, Barry. So
I know the scrums.
The modern fans, they don't realise that. So there was a moment where Elias kicks the ball out on the full. We go back, and it looks for all money that we're going to have an attack on their 20-metre line. Yeah. And then they won the scrum against us. How did that all work? And could you train for it? How did that work?
You train for it because obviously it was a contestable, you know, ball back then. You know, where a scrum was a scrum, and you know you'd pack it, and they just put a second effort in, and they had a tactic, and they got the ball, you know. So unfortunately, but that's just the way it goes, you know. Yeah.
A couple of other key moments. They're a bit rough. There was one where Sirenen actually punches Magore in the head. Maybe he should have been sin binned. And then do you look back at these matches and go, oh, we got done it here. Yeah, there's a guy, I don't even know who Pudgy or the centre was. He should have been sent off for a head. But like, do you look back at moments like that and think we got done it?
Not really, mate. It's just part and parcel of the game back then, you know. The game's evolved a lot now. You know, you can get away with hell of a lot more back then, and you know, it's just you just you look back and you think, you know, what if, but it's life, you know. We just unfortunately wasn't our time back then. We had some great times, but it wasn't our time to win the comp, you know.
No. So what happened at half time? Because they took you off at half time, didn't they? Was it? Yeah. Were they hoping that you could keep playing? What's that decision process look like?
Yeah, I basically went in and you know, I was flat out lifting my arm above my head, so we got some more juice in it. But you know, realistically, the stage we're at in the game, where it was going, you know, I was going to be a passenger, you know. So the call was made to leave me out. So. Look, you know,
were you in favour of that at the time? Did it make sense, or were you send me out? Did you want to go on?
Look, I was struggling passing the ball, and you know, really from a tackling point of view, I was more of a liability, you know, and you know, the last thing you want to do is cost your team a victory by missing a tackle or, you know, throwing an intercept or something like that, you know. So you know, it is what it is. Yeah.
All right. Well, spoiler alert for the Sharks fans. Unfortunately, this one doesn't go the way of the Sharkies, with the Tigers getting a field goal and then a rather fortuitous try with a couple of offloads. And then Ellery Hanley was also very quiet in that game, but he was given one moment. He was given 1 moment to score a try, and he was quick. Yeah. And so the Sharkies bounced out in 1988. Having gone back and watched that match, I also think just there's so many other different eras and things to think about. I actually think the gentlemanly nature, Barry, of the commentators. Yeah. So I was listening back to Rex Mossop and his eloquence of the way that he speaks and some of his vocabulary. He's just I had to look up one of the words he used. He called us the impetuosity of the Sharks. I was like, oh, God, to look that up. Something. Yeah. When you were playing, did you ever go back and watch I like it if I'm being commentated by this one, or Rex Mossop
really, mate. I mean, I kept all my father-in-law Keith used to tape every game, and you know he had a wardrobe of tapes and stuff, and it's always good to go back and listen to the way they used to commentate the game. You know, good watching. You know.
Yeah. Who was the best referee that ever refereed you, Barry?
I'd have to say Graham Annesley.
Yeah.
Back in the day, you know, he was straight up. He was good. No bullshit. You know, good man.
Yeah, right, got it. All right, so the Sharkies dip out in 1988, but things are looking up for the Sharks. We've got our, you know, we're missing a few players, and we go into the 1989 season. We were certainly, look, it gets celebrated for a few things. The
Yeah.
The Rabbitohs minor premiership and that epic grand final. But the Sharks, we were sitting in third place as it happens at round 18, and sadly again, our star halfback Barry Russell goes down injured again.
Knee
and then 2 losses. Yeah. Was that the knee that time, was it?
Yeah. I did a cruciate ligament. So I was in for a knee reconstruction after that.
Yeah, and that would have also wiped out, it really hurt your speed too, didn't it?
Yeah, for sure.
Right. So
I had my fair share of injuries.
Yeah, right. So what did you remember from the 1989 season?
You're winding the clock back.
Yeah, that's why I made a recall. There's one match that I'm going to talk about that you didn't play and that just bugs me where we lost. But yeah, we obviously were able to still obviously a star performer. But a bit more pressure on you as the Rothmans Medal winner, I would have thought.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, you obviously they spot you a lot more. And I used to work with Gab very closely, and just the defensive lines become more aware of what you do and how you play, and so that's you've got to learn. You expect that,
Well, as the 1989 season goes, 2 losses in the last 4 matches, including an 8-4 loss to the Gold Coast, which sees the Sharkies have to play a 5th, 6th playoff, which sadly you also didn't get to play in. So, Barry, I'm just going to say this. The 4 most important matches of the late 80s, you didn't get to play in them. You're our best player, and you're the whole reason why we were any good.
Oh, no. Sorry, mate. Wind the clock back. I'd love to do it all again, let me tell you.
Yeah, it's goodness me, I don't mean to rub it in, but what could have been? It was and that 1989 Broncos match often is heralded as the greatest Sharks finals win prior to 2016, certainly. But again, that was such a special team. We were backing it up with the experience, and there are no slouches, that Broncos mob with Wally Lewis and Langer and those guys.
They had a great team, mate. There's some great teams around, in that era for sure. Definitely. So, and then the 1989 season, it was actually finished. I think it was 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th all finished on the same number of points. So if we hadn't dropped one match or even drawn a match, we would have been 3rd. Another what if? What if?
What if?
Yeah.
So then look, we obviously didn't do as well in your next 2 seasons, and I guess we should have. We'll touch on the coach Alan Fitzgibbon and draw comparisons to the current coach. But at the time, you would have thought, okay, we're up for a few more seasons here. What changed in 1990 and 1991, Baz?
Oh, mate, look, I think we had that sort of influx of the local juniors come through over those earlier years, and I suppose, look, it's like anything back in the day, you stay up for a certain period, and we're up for a few years, and we just went through a few players left, and we just went through, I suppose, a couple of years where we just, we lost that consistency in the way we played, and it was evident in obviously where we finished those years, so.
Coached by Alan Fitzgibbon.
Yeah, Fitzy,
whose
great
son.
fella.
His son is now obviously the coach.
Yeah.
Was Craig in and around the team? Was he a ball boy for the team? Or
he was a ball boy. Yeah, good young kid. His dad was a great fella. Really enjoyed Fitzy. Really.
What was he like as a coach? What did he stand for?
Mate, look, he was a player's coach. He had Ron Massey there with him. Obviously, he'd served under Jack. So he had a great knowledge of the game. And he was just a good, approachable, man that knew what he was doing, and it's just a shame we didn't have more success under him.
What similarities do you see with the current Sharks team? And what do you see them do? You think, that's the sort of thing that his dad, as Craig Fitzgibbon, would do now. Look, are there similarities there, or is it totally?
Not really, mate. Yeah, different eras, different people, and Fitzy now is his own man, his own coach, and he's doing a fantastic job. What he's building, with the club and the team, you know, I got no doubt there'll be success ahead for him and the team for sure.
Mm. So ultimately, you retire pretty young, or you don't retire at the end of 1991, but you play your last match for the Sharks in first grade, and then ultimately decide, a little bit after that they're not quite physically up to it to get going.
Just injuries, mate, and I just I suppose I made a call to retire. That didn't last long because I got a call from Barry Vining at the Jets, and next thing you know, I'm over at Newtown Jets playing halfback there, you know, and we had a great year there. Won the comp in '92 at the Jets in the second division. That was a lot of fun. So I just went and enjoyed my footy, you know. So
yeah, right. Yeah. All right. Well, then you spent some time as post career. You spent some time as a development officer for the Cronulla Sharks, and then spent some time as the commercial sponsorship manager for the NRL. I can imagine that the Barry Russell of today might find being the commercial sponsorship manager for the NRL a little bit easier. You'd have to say the state of the game's in better shape, Barry. What's your take on the current status of the National Rugby League?
Yeah, look, I mean, back when I was with the NRL, I sort of came through the whole Super League era with News Limited. So, you know, seeing the game unify through Ian Frickberg, who was director of News Limited, sort of helped bring back the game together. And, it was it wasn't a good time in the game. But the game today, look, it's you know, flourishing really. You know, some of the footy that you're seeing, some of the games are just amazing, and the players these days, you know, obviously being full time, it's just, you know, amazing what they do and how they do it. You know, I love watching, especially this time of year, love watching every game. You know, but yeah, it's doing really well, that's for sure.
Time of recording, we're recording this prior to the Cronulla Sharks versus the Canberra Raiders in week 2 of the final. So we'll touch on that at the end of the. We'll talk about that match at the end of the interview, Baz. Not to date us too much, so that anyone listening, just in case the Sharks lose, they have to listen to us preview the match. We'll certainly get that in there. Of the Sharks' current crop of players,
yes,
who's your favourites? Who do you think's had a great season and has a great future ahead of him?
Look, I love watching. I love Tricky Trindall. You know, he's just a great football talent, and he's been doing some great things. And I think if they're going to win the comp this year, he has to be in his best form. Him and Nico, they're crucial the way they work together, and success will depend on those guys. I love watching him. Blake Braley, you know, he's really come into his own, and Fanua Blake, you know, amazing play, got us going forward, which is good, you know. But they got a great squad, you know.
That they do.
Yeah, it's really good.
Nico Hines, though, Barry, does he get unfairly treated by the media?
Oh, look, it's a tough gig, mate. You know, there's always going to be scrutiny on marquee players and on halfbacks and things like that. And I think it's just a matter of, it's more the combination with him and Tricky, you know, knowing when to hold them, knowing when to fold them. And I think the two of them have, you know, they're working really well together now, and they complement each other. So, you know, he's been dealt some pretty harsh criticism, but, you know, it goes with the territory, you know, and you just dust it off and you just concentrate on doing what you do best, and that's play footy and winning footy games, you know, and that's what they're doing. So it's great.
Of your 1988, 1989 teams, you can take one player and put them into the team for this weekend or for the end of the season. Who do you think would be the best player to add in? I think I know who you're going to say is the answer. You can pick. I'll let you pick two. Who would you put in and why?
I'd put ET in the centres, and I'd put Gav Miller in the.
I knew you were going to say them.
Mate, 100% straight in. Oh, for sure.
How good would Gav Miller be? He could do everything, that guy.
Mate, he was unreal. He honestly, he just was. He's the toughest bloke I've ever seen, played with, right? Amazing toughness. and just an extreme talent, you know. So, and ET, well, he was just sheer brilliance, you know, just natural brilliant, you know. So
Would ET be fullback today, though? He's more. Why didn't he play more fullback, you think? Because we had Docking and Docking was so good?
Yeah, no, I think centre was his spot. His defence, his defence at centre was unbelievable, you know. And I think centre was his spot. Obviously, he played wing, but you know he was for us in the centres. God, mate, no one was going down his side. He'd snap you in half, you know.
He certainly would cut you in half. All right, let's fast forward. Thursday, February 8, 2018, Barry. It's reported on sharks.com.au that local junior and former champion player Barry Russell is to become CEO of the Cronulla Sharks. How do you get to that point, and how do you even hear about the job? What does the interview process look like? Talk to me about
it. It was just like any other job, mate. It was, you know, open and advertised, and I just applied, you know. It was always something I'd worked in the club in several roles over the years, you know, junior development manager. I'd worked in marketing, you know, and I'd had experience in sports admin with the NRL and things like that. And it's just something I'm always passionate about the club. I always want the best for the club. And I thought, you know what, I'll have a crack. You know, I'll give it a good run and see how I go, you know. And so I just went through the interview process like anyone else. And
so who interviewed you? The chairman at the time, which was Dino Mezzatesta?
Yeah, Dino, Craig Airy, there was Darren McConnell, one of the board members. Yeah. So.
Yeah, Darren. He had links to junior rugby league in the Shire, didn't he, Darren?
He did. Yeah. So it, you know, I'd worked at the game at various different levels, from playing, coaching, sports admin, and you know, I obviously knew the club and the pathways and how that all operated, and I just had a crack. I didn't want to die wondering, you know. So
just like the way you played footy, eyes up, have a go. Exactly. So the state of the Sharks at the time, you were quoted as saying you had to clean up a mess post your time with the Sharks, which is maybe a bit tough, but it can't have been easy inheriting the Sharks. What was the status of the Sharks when you took them over, mate?
Oh, look, mate, it wasn't a mess by any means when I jumped in there, right? It was more a case of, you know, things came to light after I was in the seat, right? And you know, it's well reported. You know, unfortunately, you know, there were things that affected the salary cap, and we got severely penalised for that, you know.
So what you picked up there was a slight salary cap breach, wasn't it? And that decision to self-report must have been one you agonised over. What was you? Can you take you back to that moment? How do you rationalise that in your mind? I guess you've got to go forward. What did we think at that point?
Well, look, I'd appointed, one of the first appointments I made at the time was a governance compliance manager, and he was a former salary cap auditor of the NRL. So he came in to, obviously, the whole governance side of things is important in a club which is a big business like that. So, you know, a discrepancy was uncovered, and basically a decision made to take it to the board, and it was recommended that with this indiscretion, if we took it in the front door, you know, we'd probably cop a fine and we'd be okay. So, you know, the board at the time, you know, approved that, and that's what we did. And unfortunately, once that happened, that just set the wheels in motion for a whole range of issues that came to light, which ended up probably being, one of the most unpleasant times of my life, to be honest. But you know, we ended up, I think, getting fined, you know, 1.25 million, something like that. And you know, it's well documented, you know, what went down. So not a nice time, but I think, look, things happen for a reason, and you know, I look back and think, you know, well, it set the world's in motion to put better practices in place for governance and things like that, and recording and reporting. And hopefully I left the club when I did leave in a better place.
Ultimately, I guess you can rationalise it at the time. I always say to this, people can say, "Oh, hindsight's a wonderful thing," but what you thought you were looking at was different to what was uncovered, and you weren't part of the club prior to that.
That's
I guess
correct.
when people are given an open view, if you had your time again and you knew it would play out the way that it did, Barry, would you still do the same thing?
Oh, look, I think in situations like that, I think your integrity is the most important thing, and what you want your club to be around for the long term, and ultimately, if what I did, if I didn't do it back then, and it came to light later, it probably would have been dealt more harshly, and I'd probably do it again. I'd adopt the same approach, and hopefully get a different result.
Well, I guess the other thing is that by self-reporting, you were aware that we had a problem with, what was it, 2015 and then in 2017, but the premiership year, and these were slight problems too, weren't they, Barry? There wasn't gross salary cap.
Yeah, like it wasn't even initially. It wasn't even. It was an issue that was, I suppose, big enough that it needed to be brought to the board's attention, and a decision was made. If we didn't self-report and it was found, it would be treated a lot more harshly. So we made we made the right call. No one knew what else was going to get uncovered. That was unfortunate,
And also, we didn't want to risk them not knowing what the status was and putting in jeopardy the 2016 premiership, I guess, as well, as was also a consideration at the time.
Ultimately, these sort of things get picked up, and it's very heavily scrutinised, the salary cap, and it would have been a different story if we didn't bring it to the attention of the NRL, and they so.
All right, so then it comes out that Shane Flanagan had been in contact with the club during the season in which he was suspended, and I've always joked that I'm not sure why he didn't have an email address, not shaneflanagan@hotmail.com. How did you hear that they had uncovered that Shane Flanagan had been in touch and been working with the club behind the scenes during his suspend of the year? And do you think that played out the way that you were expecting?
I don't think anything played out the way I expected to play out. And, when you're confronted with NRL auditors, a whole team of them, and, they basically, under your licence, they can go through all your records. Look, no one expected it to play out the way it did. It was unfortunate, and, it wasn't a nice time in anyone's life back then, that's for sure. But as I said, the club, if anything, they had to put in better governance practices, which they have in place now, and you'd never find anything like that happen again. That's for sure.
So then you appoint John Morris, or actually you announced that Jim Dimmick and John Morris are going to take over, and then you eventually land on John Morris. I thought John Morris was a terrific coach for the Cronulla Sharks, Barry. I thought he was an absolutely brilliant choice. He's a 300 match player, not blessed with the talent of an Andrew Johns or Jonathan Thurston by any means, but you would know, you have to be a tough character to play 300 games. And I thought he brought a bit of ingenuity to the team on the park. What did you see in John Morris that you thought was a great choice as a coach of the Sharkies?
Oh, well, I think, look, John helped build the Pathways program at the Sharks. So he had an in-depth knowledge of all the talent coming through. And obviously he was in the seat, right? And he had the experience, he had the respect of the players. He was a good man. And, we did, the committee, felt that he could bring out the best of the talent coming through. So, we went ahead and appointed him. So, yeah.
And then ultimately leads you to the decision to, which I must admit would have been a hard one for you, to depart the Sharks.
Yeah.
After 12 months in the chair, or not quite?
Just over 13
Just
months.
over, 13 months. There we go, 13 months.
Mm.
Ultimately, how do you look back at your time with that? You love the club.
Yeah, look, I love the club. The club has given me so much in my life, and I went in there with the sole focus of doing whatever's best for the club. Every decision was based on whatever's going to be best for the club. And, even today I'm on the old boys committee and I'm still in and around. And, I want there to be nothing but success for the club. The players, the coach, the board and the staff that work there. So it's plays a big role in people's lives, and I want it to be there long term for my grandkids and their kids, and to be around forever. So stepping away from that role, that was just a decision I made personally, that I felt it was, the year that I'd had, it was pretty tough, and I think it was good for someone clean to come in and have a fresh start and take it forward, and that's what we're doing. So yeah,
we certainly had the reins during a tumultuous time, and so I applaud you for your time with the Sharks and the contribution. Made the leagues club.
Yep.
And the lack of having one. What went wrong with that whole thing? You must get asked that question a lot.
Look, it's just, they're finally underway now, but it is delayed by, a long time. And there's a lot of reasons why that was delayed, and which, I don't want to start pointing the bone at anybody other than, the people within the club, the board, the management. Everyone's got the right intentions and they all want to get it going and as quick as they can, and they want a club for the members. But there were factors, with builders, developers, COVID, building costs, all sorts of things that played their part in it. But the good news is, they're finally underway. The builders in there, they've got staff on site and they've started the works, and it will get done, and we will have our club. Although it's extremely late, we're going to get there. So, which is good news,
So it's still enormously frustrating. Like, how could they have were you sitting on that deal, or was the deal done before you got there? Like, I just don't understand how we could have done a deal where the shopping complex gets done and the leagues club's not done.
Yeah.
Why did we go down that far? How does that even happen?
Hindsight's a wonderful thing, and if you wind the clock back when the club first did the deal, it was a case, I think we were weeks away from the bank shutting the doors. We were in debt, highly in debt, and there was a deal on the table which could alleviate the club of that debt, and decisions were made by, you got to remember, the people on the board and the management at the time. Everyone's doing what they think's best.
2 jobs,
right? So you got board members, they're honorary, and no one deliberately trying to stuff deals up. Everyone's trying to do their best deal, for the club. And back then they thought that was the case. Now, it's a lot of time has passed. There's been, a lot of units built. There's been a shopping centre, and it's not because they haven't wanted to get a club. It's things, out of their control have, slowed that up, and look, I think looking back, if people had their time again, even me, would you do things done different? Yeah, you probably would have, But as I said, it's everyone's doing the best that they think's for the club, you know. So yeah, tough. But yeah, look, it's getting built. That's good news.
Well, we're all looking forward to the club being back up and running, and the facility that's down there is certainly, look, there are some real benefits of the setup. So one is we're the only licensed venue on what is now a venue that can generate a whole bunch more traffic with bigger parking lots and whatnot. So it should be more beneficial for us in the future. And let's not also forget the other locations that we've also been able to secure, so that we're not just relying on one location. It would be nice if we could do up the ground, but that's a whole nother story that we won't get into. Qantas, I've got you for a couple more minutes, Barry. Let's chat the Raiders game.
Okay, let's go.
Let's chat footy. All right. So
when are they going to hear? When are the listeners going to hear this?
We're going to release it straight after this, but I thought I would do all of the other stuff, so that if someone listens to it in January 2027, they don't have to listen to us talk about how good the Sharks are going to be, just in case it goes the way that we don't want it to be. What's your take on, look, the Raiders being busted up by the Broncos in that match? How much of an impact is that going to have on this weekend's match?
Look, it's going to have an impact, there's no doubt, right? But what it will do also will fire them up like you wouldn't believe, right? So it is going to be one hell of a tough match down there. But I think they're going to face a Sharks team that's actually on the rise, that's healthy, that's building in confidence, and we are going to be very hard to beat.
The impact of Fanua Blake, I thought we saw that on the match against the Roosters. Just his size, and when he came off the bench, boy, he's a good player to have for us in the forward pack. He'd have to be the top forward in the game, you'd argue.
He's been a game changer for the Sharks, and especially for Blake Braley, you know, getting us going forward. But what I like about the team the last couple of weeks is they've defended the last 2 weeks the best they have all year, and I just see them, you know, some steel in their defence, and I like them. They're just. It looks like that whole confidence and self-belief is really coming through at the right time, you know. So
you mentioned the confidence and self-belief. Like, you can't coach that. Do you know that it's there when it's there, or and you can kind of feel it, or how does Fitzy channel that? How does he use it?
Well, I think, look, confidence is a funny thing, you know, and when doubt starts to creep into your game, when you're doubting if that bloke's going to make that tackle, if you're doubting if someone's going to be there to support you, and you become hesitant, well, things just don't happen. But when you sort of, I put it down to the secret ingredients is trust, you know, and you know, when they have unbelievable trust in each other, and you know they operate as a team. And they start getting success. This is how confidence builds, you know. And I can tell you, mate, they're going to be hard to beat. I've got them beating the Raiders, definitely, down there. I think we're going to play a style of footy that's going to frustrate the Raiders, because they like, you know, second phase play, and they've got some very talented players. They're going to come at us through the forwards, but I just think we're going to bash them. I really think we're going to give it to them. And, you know, I'm dead set jumping on Qantas frequent flyers straight after this call and booking my flight to Melbourne, you know.
Well, we've all got the Qantas flight information. What is it, 8,000 frequent flyer points, I believe it is, to get to Melbourne. So we'll all certainly be jumping on that. Mate, the interchange bench, this is the first time, I think, all season where Fitzy's had an option or two beyond just naturally picking the team. So he's got Tom Hazelton currently not picked in the 17, with Britt Nickera starting on the bench.
Yeah.
5 don't go into 4, and you can include 5 in. You include Billy Burns in there. Who would you be picking? Does Britt Nickera start for you? What do you do?
Oh, mate, look, I'd probably look, mate. The thing is, we're very healthy, which is great, and we've got a great bench, right? I'd chuck Tommy Dearden in there somewhere, because he just adds something different when he comes on, you know. And he's a big body. He gets going forward, and he can sneak a try or two here and there, you know. So, yeah, I think I feel
Tommy Hazelton.
Yeah.
So big Tommy comes in for you. And so who do you not play? Who do you not pick?
Mate,
you're obviously going to pick Talakai. He's going to be in the team. You can't not pick. And you've got to pick Britton Nickera, don't you? So then it's Oregon, Kafusi, Hamlin, Ueli, and Billy Burns, isn't it?
Yeah.
One of them has to miss out.
Well, you know what? I'm not close enough to it. The coach will know. But you know what? It's having a bench like we've got and having a healthy squad like we've got at this time of year. You look at a lot of the teams are busted, right? And as I said, we're healthy, we're confident, we're playing with a lot of trust, and they got the desire, the fire in the belly. So I think we can. I think we can do something special in Canberra, and then I'm off to Melbourne. Definitely get on.
I'll be down to Melbourne as well. You remember seeing me on the plane to North Queensland? Barry, do you remember seeing us on the plane? I don't know if you remember that or not.
No, I don't.
We were on the same plane as you to Townsville, and you were walking up the back to the toilet, and you saw me and my rowdy bunch of mates carrying on. Oh, g'day, boys. You said g'day to us. It was quite good fun. And we all know how that 2015 trip to Townsville ended. That was an absolute disaster, that one.
Yeah.
So hopefully it goes. And where are you watching the game, mate?
Oh, mate, I'll be on the lounge for this one. I've got my shoulder in 2 weeks after an op. I didn't fancy 6 hours driving in the car, so I'll just be camped on the lounge with a whole big litre tub of Messina gelato and cheering the boys on, you know. But as I said, if you put your house on them, let's go.
Oh, I think the Sharkies can win. All right, Barry. Thanks for coming on. Lastly,
yes,
you're obviously a prominent businessman and operator around the Shire. What are you up to now?
I work with a local company called Developer, and we build boutique luxury apartments in Cronulla and waterfront homes around the bay. And we are also now sponsor of the Cronulla Sharks junior reps on the sleeve. So you'll see our logos next year on the sleeves of the junior Sharks, which is critical that we support the next generation. That's what it's all about. So
support the next generation, Barry, and maybe also sponsor the ET Stand podcast too.
Well,
I'll send you the proposal, Baz.
Okay, and listen, you buy a unit off me, and I'll sponsor your show. Let's go.
Oh, mate, if I buy a unit off you, you'll have to do more than sponsor the show, Barry. But fair enough. All right, we'll certainly display. Send them through the link of your latest units that you've got on display, Barry, and we'll put them up on the channel and get them out there. Yeah. We'll talk about this week. Barry, mate, it's great to see you, and congratulations on a brilliant career.
Thanks.
You're very, very popular amongst my generation of Sharks fans, and I don't think you should.
Mate,
you're like an absolute legend. I still remember being sad when they didn't bring you on off the bench in those matches in 1990 and 91. I remember you coming off as a reserve grade. Oh, they're saving Barry Russell for first grade, and yeah, mate, you were definitely one of my favourites. So to be interviewing you on the ET stand is terrific fun. So hopefully we'll get you on the show next season, or maybe for a grand final preview, Baz.
Yeah, well, mate, I've got us playing the Broncos in the.
You're in the Broncos. I think we're playing the Panthers.
Yeah, Broncos, Sharks, and it will be I think 95. We played them in the Super League grand final. Was it 95?
97.
97 was it? There you go. So 97. It's a rematch, right? So
that would be terrific. Or playing against the Panthers. I'll tell you what, we'll play the Bulldogs too. So we'll play any of those guys and get them back for 1988. All right, that was the ET Stand podcast.
Thanks,
if you're new to the channel, hit the like and subscribe. We'll see you guys on Saturday night after full time up Cronulla. Thanks, Barry Russell.
Let's go Sharkies. Let's go. See you, boys.
For over 50 years, people have come to see the Sharks play. Talent, skill, speed, intelligence, elite level athleticism. That's not these guys. Biased, one-eyed, opinionated, more often wrong than right. They make up for their complete lack of talent with pure dribble, gibberish, and enthusiasm. This is the ET Stand Podcast.